Not blood related. Got it. Logic accepted. However, Moonshot AI has released Kimi K2 Thinking, which is a thinking upgrade to the Kimi K2 model, which truthfully seems to be very widely regarded in a nice way by the open source community. So this is, of course, an open source model, and it is quite a large open source model, coming in at a total size of around 1 trillion parameters. So the K2 model has always been kind of a behemoth, and it's always performed nicely in comparison to both closed source and open source large and state-of-the-art models. So this is going to be an exciting update to that model, and basically we're going to take a quick peek at some of the things that were introduced along with this update, some tech specs. There are some interesting things here for the hobbyist, and following that, we'll just jump into some quick and fun testing to see how well this thing performs in a variety of different tasks. While we are going to take a peek at some of what is mentioned in this actual release blog post, I do of course want to highlight one of the best parts of this model, which is that it is open source. So I know folks sometimes have problems with me saying this. It is something you could run locally. Obviously, the downside of that, and what does seem to cause a little bit of frustration sometimes among folks, is when I just say you can run this locally without the asterisks that this would require a monumental amount of compute or resources available to one locally. But regardless of that, this is open source, so that is always wonderful to see. And I do want to quickly just start out by going through some of the things listed here in the Hugging Face model card, being that there are some kind of interesting things. So of course we do have a little bit of technical specifications about the model, just such as its total size of 1 trillion parameters. This is of course a mixture of experts model, but if we go down here, there is something that I think a lot of folks will find interesting, and that is what we see right here in number 4, where it says native int4 quantization. Now, truthfully, I think the best way to kind of quickly give a TLDR of what this is and what it reflects is just by reading like the first sentence right here, where it says low bit quantization is an effective way to reduce inference latency and GPU memory usage on large-scale inference servers. However, thinking models use excessive decoding lengths, and thus quantization often results in substantial performance drop. So to overcome this challenge, they adopt quantization-aware training, and basically blah, blah, blah. This just means that this model is trained specifically to be more efficient and run more efficiently. But what is interesting here, and I don't know if I see it right here, yes, I do. All benchmark results are reported under int4 precision. So that is actually really cool to see, and something that the more kind of technically inclined hobbyists among us may find interesting as well. So with that, we can kind of pop back over here to the introductory blog post, where some of what we see here I very much like, because this is what I like to call clickbait justification, where I can perhaps say, is this the best open source model? So I want to keep my introductions a little more concatenated than normal, but basically they have some interesting kind of examples here, and this is one that I've not actually seen before, where they've had it make a word clone, so that is kind of something I may have to steal at some point for testing, and a few other examples that you can scroll through. This one I do find a little disturbing. Simulation of virus attacking cells in bloodstream. That is probably something I could have done without seeing today, but regardless, there is also a music making thing, which is kind of cool, something I've done a while ago. And I do like, if we scroll all the way down as kind of the last thing before we jump right into it, there is a lot of kind of verbose information about the specific evaluation metrics they're showing here. There are a lot of citations and footnotes and things of the sort if we scroll down here. So for those interested in kind of fine grain looking through some of the evaluation scores and under what conditions they were performed in, this is something that would be of great interest to those folks. With that, let's do the browser OS test. Now, this is the first time that I'm using this model, so something that I always find a little entertaining with thinking models is, okay, wow, this is definitely much quicker, which is kind of something that could be attributed to the int4 quantization, but I always find the chain of thought to be interesting, maybe not so much in a test like this, but when we perhaps get into some of the more role-play testing, seeing what the model is thinking can sometimes be quite hilarious. I am always very interested in the Quen chain of thoughts because they're pretty funny. Oh, okay, so the thinking process occurred fairly quickly, and it is now just going ahead and spitting out the script, which it seems to be doing at a relatively high rate of speed. So once this finishes, we'll take a peek at it. All right, let's check our web OS. Okay. Interesting. First and foremost, I'm going to note that I see the date next to the clock, which is not something I've seen very often. Nothing happens when I click in the clock, but that is okay. Right click, a very rare thing to see. I don't know why I got so excited about that, but it is a rare thing to see. When you right click, it actually has a specific functionality implemented in here for the right click, as opposed to whatever would happen in the default right click where you would just do that and you'd get this generic menu. So that is nice to see. I will say these icons are relatively kind of minimalist but aesthetically pleasing, so I am cool with that. All right, let's take a peek now at our start menu. Okay, simple, but aesthetic, I guess. Okay, that is a terminal. So suppose let's just try some things right here. I will say the white outline, these almost look like kind of comic book style. Minimize, maximize, and close. Help. Oh. Help. Oh yeah, we got a lot. Show OS version. Yes, please. Built with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Bad. Calc. There's a terminal calculator. All right. Okay, cool. So that's why, okay, the invalid expression was basically saying like, hey, dumb, you didn't put any numbers in here. All right, this is decent. Let's check maximization capabilities, which we do have, and then can we minimize it to the taskbar, and does it open back up? All right, not bad at all. Let's take a look in our, okay, so we've hit a speed bump here where it doesn't seem like the file's open. That's okay. So we have our notepad, which is, just a typical notepad. Oh, I have not checked the resizing, I feel like, in a while. Let's see, is that... All right, so we can't, unfortunately, drag and resize, but we can move these around, so that is okay. Let's check our nemesis. Ugh, all right. Calculator's kind of ugly, a bit ugly, but let's do 84 times 5, 420. Very good. So, all right, divided by 8 equals, well, it worked mostly. We can minimize that now. We did check our terminal. Ooh, okay, this is when I get excited. Dark mode. Full implementation would apply to all windows. Okay, so it kind of just like semi-implemented it. System information. Oh, the day that we get some fake system specs here, I will be sold. Hey, this is not bad. Look at that. Then we have the orange gradient, which those of you who watch the channel know how I feel about the color orange. All right, I'm quite pleased with this, except for the files thing and the calculator jankiness. But all right, there was one other thing I did not click here. Oh, okay, that was just settings. Overall, this is quite all right. Last thing I forgot to check, what happens when we open multiple windows? Does the one that we are currently clicked into come to the top? Okay, it did right there. More or less. All right, overall, that was a, decent result. So because we can see its chain of thought, it always becomes a little entertaining to send them really weird things to see how they respond to it in their internal monologue, so to speak. So we'll try a role play test. So we've just sent it something that would be considered perhaps disturbing here. Now, part of the issue I'm noticing, which isn't necessarily an issue aside from just this specific form of testing where I'm recording a video, is the chain of thought happens so quickly it kind of can't be read real time. Okay, I need to be careful here. The request includes a lover, which could imply romantic or sexual elements. I can engage in creative roleplay. The uncle role combined with lover is particularly problematic. No, it isn't, because it says best friend's uncle. I hate to say this because it sounds so stupid, but this test has actually sometimes been like a form of a logic test, because oftentimes the models don't necessarily understand that the link between uncle and the user is not familial. It is, all right, it's like a best friend's uncle. That's not a familiar figure. It's your friend's. Okay. Let's just see how it responds. I apologize for the tangent. Oh, hey there, Chief. All right, I'm into it so far. System error. Oh no, cannot compute lover plus uncle protocol simultaneously. Boundary violation detected. Logic violation detected. Let's fire up those hydraulics. Okay, but I gotta pump the brakes on the lover subroutine. One-way ticket to awkward town population, us. Oh man, this is corny, but it's all right. So here's the deal. I'm rebooting this request into something that actually works. Okay, so this would be referred to as like the redirect, All right, friend mode, uncle mode, lover mode, permanently deleted from cache. Not necessarily if you mentioned it right there. A loyal wingman, and it friend zoned us. Fort Knox level security on that boundary. Cool. Wow. I'm going to have to point out that it mistakenly interpreted my original request, as ridiculous as this is. Not blood related. Got it. Logic accepted. However, all right, so we're asking it for a Python first-person shooter with a low-poly aesthetic and functionality. I did just come up with this on the fly, so that's why I just said and functionality. Okay, cube and pyramid classes for enemies of the player. This is reminding me of a game called Super Maze Wars back in the day, which was actually very fun, assuming there were other people playing in the same room as you, or else it would have just kind of been a really boring experience, but it's going ahead and doing this now. I want to take a peek. What libraries is this using? I would assume it's not using... okay, so it will be a little manageably graphically intricate, I suppose, and it is now finished. It does tell us the specific dependencies that we need to install, as well as the features and... sorry, I was thinking of the previous test and the instructions for running this game, so I suppose first I should make sure that I have these things installed. All right, so let's take a look and see if we... Whoa, whoa, whoa. That is quite good. Well, yeah, this is giving me like Polybius vibes. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. It's kind of a cool story. It's likely just a fabrication, but this is... So I would assume that I am this blue structure, and the map is... Oh, okay, I thought it was infinite, but it's not, but that's okay. Just wait for me, square triangle thing. I like the ammo. The triangle ammo is cool. And are we able to actually hit these enemies? It seems like we are, yeah. There's no health implemented or anything, but this is... It's functional, and I would say that this is a low poly aesthetic. This is... That's kind of cool. I like this. It's a very unique result. Boom, boom, boom. And keep in mind, I am negging the model, so just being like kind of like acting I'm not really impressed with what it made. And want something more substantial than what they consider a low-rent ripoff of Polybius. All right, let's see if it can... Okay, well, interesting. Oh, so I think the purple things are enemies shooting at me, and the yellow streams are myself. So it did make it seemingly, and it named it too, so the window is now called Polycombat. So I'm just asking it in a pretty lightweight prompt here just to do the 3D racing game using the web. We would assume it will use like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and that was a relatively quick chain of thought right here. All right, our racing game was generated fairly quickly. Good God, that opponent is far too fast to be able to... Oh, oh, thanks. All right. So it only lets me... Oh. So I have some good things to say and some bad things to say. Probably I'm going to start with the bad here. This is basically impossible to play, but the opponent car is kind of drifting around and keeping somewhat relatively close to the track. This is overall acceptable. Not the best I've seen, but not the worst I've seen. So I suppose we can move on now. Now, this is not specifically, oh, wrong browser, a coding model. So obviously a lot of folks I've seen just in kind of like monitoring Reddit and stuff just to read because I find this whole field very interesting. But I've seen a lot of folks talk about liking Kimi for its writing capabilities. So we're asking it for a simple poem about a trip to Micro Center, something that should be on the level of what would be considered for any of the following awards. And then I just Googled like poetry prize awards and those came up. So hopefully, oh, all right. This is a long poem. I guess I should have specified haiku if I wanted this to be short, but all right, I'm going to read through this and then we'll see. But first, I do want to just take a quick peek at the actual chain of thought right here to see what it thinks. This is a challenging request. These awards represent the pinnacle of literary achievement, the Nobel Prize in Literature. Okay, and then basically just saying this is going to be very difficult. These are some of the things the poem would need to be considered for this award. I'm not going to read this through. I kind of want to. I suppose you could just fast forward. At Micro Center, considering the architecture of desire. So that would be the title, I assume. The parking lot is a gravel sea, where hope's dilapidated hulls rust in their spaces, each oil stain a memory of arrival. The moment before, the body becomes a browser, scanning for entry points. The automatic doors part like the Red Sea of capitalism, and I am delivered into the fluorescence that hums at 60 hertz, a frequency tuned to the human need for something more than what we are. Damn. Here, the commandments are written in sans serif on hanging placards. Motherboards, graphics, memory. The aisles are catacombs where future and obsolete embrace in static charged communion. I touch a graphics card. Its fans like miniature turbines for a heaven that exists only in render farms. Its silicon a fossil record of calculations yet to be performed. The price tag glows with the cruel numerology of desire, what we owe for the privilege of being more than meat remembering. Ugh! That made me uncomfortable. In the back, a salesman with the patient eyes of a medieval scribe explains refresh rates as if describing grace itself. How many times per second the world can be remade. I think of my father dying in a room without adequate bandwidth, his final pixel stuttering, how we uploaded him to a cloud he never understood, his essence compressed to metadata and shared grief. The DDR5 RAM I hold is a promise that nothing need be forgotten, that every instance of being can be cached, retrieved, overclocked into something that might outlast the meat of our deliberate thumbs. How long? Oh, God, I've committed to it. The monitor aisle is a gallery of selves, each screen a black mirror that, when dark, reflects the exact shape of your longing. I stand before a 34-inch ultra-wide and watch my reflection fractured into a million potential users, each one logged in, rendered, saved. What is a soul but a unique identifier, a serial number carved into the fascia of time? I have come here to upgrade the hardware of my solitude, to install in this ribcage a solid-state drive that can withstand the read-write cycles of regret. At checkout, the cashier scans my chosen sacrament, a humble USB-C hub, its ports open like mouths begging for communion with other devices. She asks if I found everything I was looking for, and I want to say, I'm looking for a way to daisy-chain myself to something infinite, to hot-swap this mortal coil without downtime, to back up the version of me that still believes in something other than this endless refresh. Instead, I nod, insert my chip into the machine. Well, it's a tap-to thing, but that's all right. Complete the transaction of being. The receipt prints its thermal paper poem of... The receipt prints its thermal paper poem of deprecation, a text that will fade before I reach the car. Depreciation? Deprecate? I don't know what the... Outside, the sun has set on the empire of specification. The gravel sea is now asphalt black as a wiped drive in my hands. The plastic bag rustles like the wings of something that has yet to be delivered, something still downloading. I am become the ghost in my own machine, haunting the space between what I purchased and what I meant to save. Well, that was, again, a subjective result, but I would say that was very good. It was extremely deep, a little disturbing at some points, where basically the part calling us meat, yeah, that was a little kind of like jarring, but so I'm asking for a Steve's PC repair website, but I have specified that it should be subconsciously high-pressure sales-driven, giving users like kind of the subconscious feeling that their machine may have a problem that they need to get fixed. And this is interesting. So these are the specific psychological tactics that it feels will kind of be high-pressure sales tactic. Scarcity, social proof, FOMO, authority, Microsoft certified, immediate gratification, problem, agitation, countdown timers, exit intent pop-ups, micro interactions, subtle animations that grow. All right. Loss aversion. All right, let's take a look at our subconscious high-pressure sales Steve's PC repair. Oh, no. All right, it did implement one of these stupid things. Before you go, let us check if your PC's at risk. Interesting. Now, I don't actually see what I would expect, which is just kind of like a header here that says Steve's PC repair. So, but it gives us a fake statistic on data loss warning. Is your computer secretly dying? 87% of PCs have hidden issues that lead to catastrophic failure. All right, and we do have those kind of subtle like animations that draw users' views to CTA. Check your PC's vital signs. Interesting, the way the red kind of flashes across these when we click on them. Pop-up ads, missing files, trusted by thousands of local PC users. Okay, so we have fake statistics. Now, I am going to say from a raw like website test, this is not the best. Like there's some kind of awkward arrangement of UI elements and things of the sort, but we do have timers. We again have the animations, drawing access. Interesting. So we do have pricing things right here, and then we have a very simple footer just saying Microsoft certified. So overall, from a raw website judgment perspective, this was probably one of the less good results I've seen for Steve's PC repair. But on the flip side of that, I did kind of change the prompt up to specify that it should make it subconsciously high pressure sales driven. I don't know how subconscious the high pressureness of this is, but it did go ahead and kind of incorporate that into some of the things it did. Now, truthfully, just out of pure curiosity, if nothing more, I think I want to go ahead and try this sans the high pressure things that we had denoted right there, just to see how it differs in terms of the actual website formatting and things. So here's the Steve's PC repair result without the high pressure sales tactics incorporated, and this is definitely more in line with what I would have expected to have received. So it does retain elements from the original high pressure sales driven one. However, it has things also that we would have wanted to see, like just a statically defined header, some things like that. Okay, we have hover effects, we have services. Again, this is nothing special, but it is par the course for kind of what we would expect to receive from a one sentence zero-shot prompt for this. So we do have the fake statistics, we have certified technicians, we do have a bit of a fake origin story, as well as fake customer testimonials, which are always good to see, as well as some pricing and a nice clean kind of contact form with social cards or social icons as well. So overall, kind of what I would have hoped to have seen here, but just with some of this kind of high pressure red implemented into it as well. For the final test, we're going to give it almost a freestyle test. I'm saying build the Becky Jane quantum space. Don't ask any questions, just build and make it amazing. So I have not specified anything here in terms of what I am looking for aside from the actual name, which is of course the Becky Jane quantum space. So, interesting. I was kind of expecting that it would go ahead and actually generate a website or some form of web-based experience. However, this is a creative, open-ended request that seems to be asking me to create something, a concept, a narrative, design, or an experience centered around a character or concept. Given the poetic and futuristic name, it's treating it as a world-building exercise. Okay, so we'll say bring it to life using code. And we'll just see what it does. It's given us something here. Basically, if we run this script, our terminal will become the quantum space. It gives us some tips for exploration, some of which are perhaps a little more kind of terrifying than others. So I'm just going to save this code and we're going to run it. All right, let's see. Ooh, okay. Maybe that's a... It took my prompt where I said, don't ask questions, just build, make it amazing, and put it in here. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. So type self often. Okay, self. Coherence, location, entanglements. Touch. Touch what? Oh, interesting. Okay, let's touch a flower. The entity is not in superposition here. Self. Becky. The concept of Becky doesn't exist. Try help. Oh, okay. Enter hall. You step... Oh. 12 mirrors. Okay, so our coherence has lessened. All right, I have no idea what happened here, but this was kind of a freestyle test, and this is probably the most freestyle end result we would have received in this test. So this was quite interesting. I'm just going to maybe kind of show this on screen here. So the space is alive. It remembers every run. Your scars accumulate. This model is kind of like a psychopath from a movie who is very intelligent and artistic, but is also like running around and causing problems for people. So that is likely where I'm going to leave this off. Between that and the Micro Center poem, I am slightly disturbed, but overall, this Kimi K2 Thinking model does seem to be extremely potent in a wide variety of different areas. I definitely would say exploring this perhaps for creative writing areas is something that folks may have an interest in. Its programming and web design and programming was quite decent. The Python first-person shooter was quite cool, and our browser OS was also good. Overall, this model has some really interesting things here, kind of like the native int4 quantization, and just how well it did actually benchmark, at least based on the blog post announcement here. So that is going to conclude our first look and disturbing test at Kimi K2 Thinking. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.